The day I cut off my daughter's insurance, I told myself I was doing the right thing. I stood in the kitchen with my phone in my hand. The morning light came through the window, soft and quiet. The house was still. I remember taking a deep breath before pressing the button. It felt like discipline. It felt like strength. What it did not feel like was love, at least not the kind of love that comforts you at night. I believed I was teaching her responsibility. I believed I was protecting my values. I believed that sometimes parents have to be firm even when it hurts, but I did not know then what that decision would cost me, and I did not know how long that moment would follow me, like a shadow I could never step away from. My daughter had heart problems, and still, I cut off her insurance. That truth sits heavy in my chest now, heavier than any bill, heavier than any argument we ever had. This is not a story about money alone. It is about fear, pride, love that got tangled up with control, and a lesson I learned too late. I raised my daughter mostly on my own. Her father passed away when she was very young. I don't talk about that much. Some losses never soften, no matter how many years pass. From the beginning, it was just the two of us. I worked long hours. I packed lunches at night. I learned how to be both strong and gentle at the same time. She was a quiet child, thoughtful, always listening more than she spoke. When she was 7, we found out about her heart condition. I remember sitting in the doctor's office, holding her small hand. The room smelled like cleaning solution. The doctor spoke calmly, but I heard every word like thunder. They said it was manageable with medication, with care, with regular checkups. But once you hear the words heart problem about your child, your own heart never beats the same again. From that day on, I watched her closely. Too closely, maybe. I checked her breathing at night. I worried about every fever, every cough. I told myself it was love, and maybe it was. As she grew older, she became more independent, strong in her own quiet way. She did well in school. She was kind. She didn't cause trouble. But when she turned 23, something changed. She met him. She came home one evening and told me she had something to say. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the same table where she once did homework, where we celebrated birthdays with small cakes. She didn't look nervous, just careful. "I've been seeing someone," she said. I smiled. I told her I was happy for her. At first, I truly was, but a few months later, she said something else. "I'm thinking of moving in with him." The words landed softly, but inside me, they made noise. I grew up believing certain things about marriage, about responsibility, about how life should be lived. I did not yell. I did not threaten. I simply said, "I don't think that's a good idea." She listened. Then she said, "I know, Mom, but this is my choice." That was the moment I felt the shift. Not anger, not hatred, fear of losing control, fear of watching her walk into a life I did not approve of, fear that my role as her protector was slipping away. She moved out a month later, and that's when I made a decision that I thought was fair. Her insurance was under my name. I had kept it that way since she was young. It was part of how I protected her. When she moved in with her boyfriend, I told myself something changed. She's an adult now, I thought. She's making adult choices. I convinced myself that adult choices should come with adult responsibility. I told her calmly, "If you're going to live that way, you need to start handling your own expenses." She looked at me quietly. "Mom," she said, "I can't afford insurance right now." I nodded, but I did not bend. "I'm not punishing you," I said. "I'm teaching you." She didn't argue. She just said, "Okay, that should have warned me." When a child stops arguing, it often means they are hurting quietly. Emotional undercurrent. The house felt empty after she left. I told myself it was normal, that parents are supposed to let go. But at night, I listened to the silence. And sometimes I wondered if I had gone too far. Still, I held on to my belief. This will make her stronger, I said to myself. This is tough love. Weeks passed, then months. We spoke less, short calls, polite words. I noticed she sounded tired. I noticed she stopped mentioning doctor visits. I noticed, but I did not ask. And that is something I will always regret. The call came on a rainy afternoon. The sky was gray, the kind of gray that makes everything feel heavy. When I saw her name on my phone, my heart tightened. Her voice sounded weak. "Mom," she said, "I don't feel well." And in that moment, every belief I had built began to crack. But I didn't know yet that reality was about to hit me harder than anything before. The first time I heard her voice sounding weak, I felt a pang I couldn't explain. "Mom," she said, "I just feel dizzy sometimes." I swallowed, trying to keep calm. "Are you taking your meds?" I asked. "Yes," she whispered, "I'm trying." That was the start of it. A subtle pattern. Every week she called less. Every week I noticed her tone thinner, quieter. I wanted to ask the hard questions, but pride got in the way. I reminded myself, she's an adult. She can handle this. But then came the little messages I ignored. "Mom, I can't make the appointment this week." "Mom, I had to skip the test." Each one made my chest tighten. I told myself again, this is tough love. She'll learn responsibility. But I didn't see her struggling in silence. I didn't see the sleepless nights, the skipped doses, the anxiety of a heart condition untreated. At family gatherings, I tried to smile. I nodded at her cousin's stories, laughed at small jokes, but inside I felt a distance I hadn't felt before. One afternoon, I stopped by her old room. The walls were the same, but everything felt empty. Her clothes were gone, her books were gone. I realized then I'd built a house in my mind for my daughter, but she no longer lived there. I tried to talk to her boyfriend once, politely. "I hope you're taking care of her," I said. He nodded. "We are." But how could I know? How could I trust that she wasn't silently suffering? Weeks later, she sent a short text. "Mom, I feel tired. My chest hurts sometimes. My stomach sank." I wanted to rush to her side, hug her, tell her everything would be fine, but I didn't. I stayed silent. I thought she has to learn responsibility. And in that moment, my pride became a barrier between us. It was a gray morning when the call came. I answered the phone with the usual calm, but her voice shattered it instantly. "Mom, I'm in the hospital." I felt my knees weaken, my hands trembled. I sank into a chair. "Your insurance." "It's not active," the nurse said gently on the line. The words hit me like a cold wave. I had cut off her coverage months ago. I had thought it was fair, responsible, necessary. I had thought I was doing the right thing. Now I realized I had taken away her safety net. I rushed to the hospital, heart pounding with guilt, fear, and regret. When I arrived, I saw her lying in the hospital bed. Small tubes, monitors, soft beeping. Her eyes were closed. She opened them slowly and tried to smile. "Hi, Mom," she whispered. I sat down beside her, holding her hand. I wanted to cry, to beg for forgiveness, to apologize, but I couldn't find the words at first. The doctor explained everything calmly: missed doses, skipped checkups, and the complications from untreated heart issues. I listened and felt my heart breaking in pieces. "How did this happen?" I asked softly, my voice shaking. My daughter looked at me, her eyes tired but forgiving. "I didn't want to bother you," she said. I thought I could handle it myself. I realized then that my lessons in responsibility had become punishment. I had wanted to teach her independence, but I had taken away her security. I spent hours by her bedside, reflecting on every moment I had chosen pride over care. And I saw clearly that love isn't about being right. Love isn't about discipline or proving a point. Love is about presence. Love is about protection. Love is about knowing when to let go and when to hold on. That night I stayed in the hospital chair. I whispered into the darkness, "I am so sorry, my darling. I will never let my pride hurt you again." She squeezed my hand softly, and in that small gesture, I felt a connection rebuild between us. After the hospital stay, life slowed down for us. We didn't speak of blame. We spoke of care, of boundaries and love. I reinstated her insurance immediately. I helped her manage the payments quietly. At first it was awkward. She didn't fully trust that I understood the depth of what she went through. And I didn't fully trust that I could fix what I had broken. But slowly we began to rebuild. I learned to listen without judgment. I learned to offer help without conditions. I learned that even when my heart aches, my instincts as a parent must be tempered with compassion. One evening we sat in the living room together, rain tapping on the windows, soft piano music in the background. I was scared, she said quietly. I know, I whispered. I was scared too. I didn't want to bother you, she continued. I didn't know how to ask. I held her hand. You can always ask, sweetheart, always. From that day on, our conversations changed, not because everything became perfect, it never does, but because we found understanding. I realized that mistakes are not the end. They are lessons, hard, painful lessons, yes, but lessons that can bring us closer if we approach them with humility and love. We started attending her checkups together. We made lists of her medications. We spoke openly about her health, her choices, and her future. And slowly I felt the weight lift from my chest. Not completely, but enough to breathe again. Looking back, I understand now what I didn't see before. I was so focused on doing what I thought was right that I forgot the simplest truth. Love is not a lesson. It's a presence. It's support. My daughter taught me more than I could ever teach her. She taught me patience. She taught me forgiveness. She taught me the quiet strength of vulnerability. And in that realization, I found hope. We are still rebuilding our relationship, slowly, gently, with care. I can't undo the past, but I can be present now. I can listen without judgment. I can help without conditions. I can love without expectation. Sometimes I still think about the day I cut off her insurance. Sometimes the guilt returns in quiet waves, but I let it remind me of the lesson learned. That love isn't about proving a point. It's about showing up even when it's hard, even when your heart is heavy, even when pride tempts you to stay silent. And in the end, that is all that matters. I learned that being a parent, it's not about control, it's about care. It's about being there when your child needs you the most, and sometimes it's about admitting you were wrong. So if you take anything from my story, let it be this: hold your loved ones close, listen, protect, and never let pride become more important than love. Because love is what heals, love is what lasts, and love is what guides us home.